Welcome to Shameless Leadership. I'm your host, Sarah Dean. This show is for women leaders who are committed to advancing both their own leadership and the leadership of those around them. In each episode, I offer practical strategies and inspiring stories to help you become a more confident, compassionate, and curious leader. The truth is, you were born to lead. So let's start now, together. Hello, Shameless Leaders. Oh my goodness. We're keeping it real today. I'm standing at my desk, which totally messes up my recording lighting because my back and hips hurt. And I also have a cold and feel like I could sneeze at any moment. So it's a whole hot mess express situation going on over here. So thanks for bearing with me. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're like, her lighting is off and she looks sickly. True and true. And behind me, I have my dog, whose name I won't say because she'll get too excited, but she's sitting on the ottoman behind me. I'll show you in a second. Trying to remind me with her silent presence that it is very much time for me to take her for a WALK and that I should not be recording right now. Oh, Piper. Oh, no, now she's ignoring me. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right. So if you're on YouTube, you just got to see her, whose name I shall not say again because she will start jumping on me, thinking that we need to go do activities together. So everything feels out of sorts. All right. So today we're talking about 5 leadership skills for women that actually accelerate your career. And I'm excited to talk about this because what I think is really important when we're thinking about leadership and talking about leadership is that we are actually breaking down skills that are important and skills that move the needle more so than focusing on just doing more for the sake of hopefully at some point being acknowledged as someone who can do all the things at any time in any situation, and feeling like the only way we can get further is to hustle harder, because that is absolutely not the case. So this is the antidote to hustle harder and fix yourself and check boxes that other people set for you. This is really intended to be skills that you can use, strategies that are intentional, and also sustainable habits that will get you where you want to go. This is also going to be specific in a way where I'm not just telling you to be more confident or like do this thing indefinitely that feels a little vague or nebulous. I really want you to feel like, okay, here are some steps I can actually take and put into practice and know that I'm doing the things to move the needle in the direction that I want to move the needle, and also in a way that feels values aligned and feels effective and efficient and like a good use of time and energy. So let's talk about why this is really important and the reality around we're often told, if not silently indoctrinated, into this idea that we need to work harder or fake more confidence in order to get to where we want to go. And so my purpose today is to help you understand how you can get you where you want to go without more overproving, overdoing, overproducing, overgiving, and instead really focus on what are the tactical, tangible things that you can do instead of just feeling like you need to do more of everything all the time to prove yourself, which is oftentimes the mindset that we get into when we don't know exactly what to do. We just try to do more of everything. I also want this to feel like you have these strategic levers that you can be pulling at different times or in different moments or within certain opportunities to, again, take strategic action more so than working on kind of bigger, more vague skill sets or mindsets that may or may not actually get you where you want to go. And I want you to feel like you can really intentionally and strategically build momentum, visibility, and influence without burnout. We can always do more, and that is not the goal. Doing more is not the goal to getting further. The goal is to get further without having to hustle harder, without burning ourselves out on the way, to get as high as we want to go and still have energy when we get there, right? Still have energy and enthusiasm. So often, and I'm sure you've experienced this in different capacities in your life, we work so hard to get somewhere that by the time we're there, we're like, well, now I'm just tired. Like, I worked so hard to get to this place and I can't enjoy it or appreciate it or even be grateful for it because I'm just tired because of how hard it was to get here or how much I had to work to get here. So let's dig into some strategies so that you can feel like you can do this without burning out, that you can approach your leadership growth and excel your leadership and career with your leadership in a way that is skill-based and strategic. So the first thing you're going to do is practicing strategic self-advocacy. And I'm going to talk about what that looks like. So what does strategic self-advocacy look like? Strategic self-advocacy looks like speaking up in really key moments over time. And so I could say like, speak up more and stand up for yourself and be a good self-advocate, which again is like a great idea and great in theory, but let's look at where that matters most, because there's some key moments where that matters most. You could do this in a million ways every single day. Where can you do this in the places and in the moments where you're going to actually move the needle in terms of getting closer to where you want to be going? So this is going to be focusing on the opportunities you have to step into higher level work, step into higher visibility opportunities, step into places where you get to show off in a way, where you get to shine in a certain way, where you get to be seen doing the thing that you're really good at, where you get to be seen being exceptional. So this accelerates your careers because when you're doing these kinds of things, you position yourself for promotions and raises. You position yourself to be the person that's top of mind for that next project or assignment, for that next visibility opportunity. This is important because there's plenty of people who won't ask for more. They sit quietly waiting for more to come to them. And the people who have the power to give you more don't know that you want it. So letting people know, naming out loud what you want, what you're ready for becomes really important. So how do we actually practice strategic self-advocacy? You name your goals out loud. You tell the people around you. You tell your boss. You tell your peers. You tell your mentors. You tell people on other teams. You tell people where you're going. You tell people what your goals are so that then they can be on the lookout for you and with you. You ask for what you want before you feel 100% ready. So I've done this in so many different ways, but you label the thing that you are becoming before you're 100% that thing. So before I was a speaker speaking on stages at Fortune 10 companies, I just simply went and put speaker in my signature line of my email. So long before I really got on any stages, aside from the stage I built for myself in my own fitness business when I ran my gym, I knew I wanted to be a speaker. I knew I wanted to be speaking on bigger stages, bigger than my gym. And so I remember talking to this life coach who I was friends with at the time, really lovely woman. And she was like, well, you're essentially like giving a group presentation every time you lead a boot camp class. So you already are a speaker. And I also was like leading all these like, well, health and wellness and nutrition workshops and like all these different things at my gym. She's like, you're a speaker. Like, you don't need to like go get a degree in being a speaker. Just put speaker on your email signature. So letting people know that you're the thing before you're 100% the thing. Now, you can't say like, I'm a real estate agent if you're actually not certified or credentialed to like obviously do this within ethical realms, but letting people know where you're going, what you want, asking for what you want, giving yourself the titles that, again, within ethical boundaries make sense to give yourself so that people know that that's where you're going. Oftentimes when we don't do this, our silence or our inaction or our just kind of fitting in, blending in and going with the flow is misinterpreted as that like, we're good, we're satisfied, we're happy with where we are. If you want more, you have to let people know that you want more. If you want more, you have to let people know that this is the direction I'm going. These are my goals. Here's how I'm working toward it. So self-advocacy looks like sharing those goals, talking about them out loud, letting people know who you are becoming, really putting that out in public spaces when you have the opportunity to do so. So you're framing your contributions, you're framing the value that you have to give in actual terms that people understand, like, oh, this is where that person is going, so that they know and understand. Where we fall into traps with self-advocacy is waiting to be noticed, waiting for an invitation, waiting for permission, or over-explaining ourselves or apologizing for ourselves and saying like, oh, maybe I'd be good for this, but maybe not. Or I don't know if I have the credentials. Like we second guess ourselves vocally and in front of others when we don't need to. We confuse humility sometimes with invisibility. So sometimes we don't go for things because we feel like, oh, I don't want to be like too much. I don't want to be over the top. I don't want to be too loud. I don't want to take up too much space. And the reality is us being humble ends up creating our own invisibility. So where do you need to be strategically self-advocating to let people know where you are going, what your goals are, who you are becoming, what the titles are that you are currently working to attain, and then letting those people become your team members and helping you get there. Number 2, the second skill that you're going to be practicing is confident, clear communication, especially in high stakes moments. This is a hard one. This is something I'm not very good at. So for me, in a high stake moment, I tend to over communicate with way too many words / paragraphs / pages, over explain, want to get way too into the minutia and the detail, and people can't follow along. And it becomes confusing and it's not clear, and it becomes at a certain point not super confident looking. So I've had to really practice how to be more concise in order to be more clear and to come across as more confident and competent in communication, especially in high stakes moments. So we're going to talk about how to do this in just a minute with some specificity, but this is really important because decision makers equate that kind of clarity and conciseness, being able to put what you need, what you're saying, and then, wrapping it in a bow. It doesn't have to be pretty, but like being able to get it in a little package. They equate that with competence. They equate that with confidence, and they understand, they will see you as a more stronger prospect if they can understand what you're saying in a clear, simple way. This is also important because your ideas and thoughts and the things that you're proposing, and opinions for that matter, only matter if people can actually hear them and understand them. If your communication is clear and confident, you're making things easier for the person on the other end or the group that you're in communication with. And people want to be around people who make their lives easier, right? So if I'm always way over explaining, people are going to be like, that's just exhausting, right? Or if I'm saying nothing at all, people are going to be like, well, how is this person going to serve me? So being able to communicate, be clear, be confident, to demonstrate competence is going to be really, really important. So what does this actually look like? This looks like speaking up and sharing your ideas and sharing your opinions. It looks like sharing sometimes dissenting opinions, sharing new ideas, being innovative. How to do this in a way that's impactful is taking your time to prepare in advance, knowing that like these are the 3 key things I need to get across, or this is my ultimate goal, not letting extraneous things come into play, not letting yourself get overwhelmed and losing sight of the goal in that moment. The book Crucial Conversations is so great at breaking down when you're going into a crucial conversation or a high stakes conversation to really understand what is your one goal in that moment. And oftentimes we're so focused on bigger picture and like the 18 things that are wrong that we want to fix in this one conversation that we end up getting nowhere. So being able to really hone in on what's the one thing that's really important right now? What's the one goal or the one thing that I need to get across that's going to really matter and that's going to be of value right now, that's going to be helpful, that's going to be supportive, that's going to be of service, that's going to demonstrate what I need to demonstrate, that's going to work to my benefit or to the benefit of the people around me, right? So being able to go in with a goal in mind, know what you actually want at the end to work toward that, then to be able to stay on track and keep it simple for others to follow along is going to be really key. This also means saying hard things with authority. This means keeping your voice even and calm, even if your heart is racing. So really practicing saying things. Sometimes this is literally knowing I'm going into a high stakes conversation or situation, and I'm going to practice a couple lines in front of my mirror while I'm washing my face that morning or before I go to bed at night. Being able to understand the impact of just a few sentences and being prepared to deliver those strategically, rather than just having, again, pages and pages of notes and information that becomes overwhelming and not helpful to anyone participating in the situation. So thinking through how you can present with authority, again, even if you're nervous, even if you're uncomfortable, you can say, I'm really nervous right now, or I'm uncomfortable. This means a lot to me. If I get fumbly, bear with me. You can say all of that and still be clear and concise. So you can be vulnerable in your delivery, but still be clear and concise. So The reality is that confidence comes after you speak, not before. So we cannot wait until we have the confidence to go do the hard communication thing. We build confidence in our communication by practicing communication that challenges us repeatedly. So don't wait till the confidence comes. Practice baby stepping your way into increasingly more challenging communication situations to build that communication muscle in a way that will allow you to develop confidence over time. You also don't need to be the loudest. So this is not about being louder or more bold or more polarizing or more outlandish or taking up more space. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the clearest. I think about my speaking coach so often because she's an introvert and very succinct with her words. And I am an extrovert ADHD person with who overexplains everything. And so if you were to like ask us both the same question, we have very similar thinking on things, very similar values, very similar philosophies around stuff, especially when it comes to leadership. I can promise you that you could ask us both the same question and she would have like 2 perfect succinct sentences and I would have like 18 paragraphs. I have to really think in advance before I communicate and process in advance what are the key things that need to get out here? Because I know my propensity to over communicate and how that can be overwhelming to other people. So really thinking through what is your propensity in communication? Where are your strengths and where are your areas for growth? And then how do you need to lean into those in order to be more clear in your communication moving forward? Your third skill that you're going to be working on to accelerate your career growth is going to be relationship building with intention. So relationship building with intention it sounds a little heartless. It's like strategic relationship building, build strategic relationships. This does not mean that you are like making your relationships in the workplace into math equations. It kind of sounds like that though. So it's really about how are you building relationships in authentic ways, in ways where you are like actually caring about the people that you're building the relationships with, but you're not doing it in a way where you're kowtowing to people, where you're people pleasing other people when you really don't want to be. So thinking about how are you building relationships with intention, adding value to relationships, maybe stepping out of your comfort zone to open the door to a relationship that maybe you feel a little bit intimidated by, or a little, maybe you're like, oh, I don't even know if I'm qualified to be speaking to this person. How do you challenge yourself in those ways? And then how do you know what your boundaries are so that when you do have the opportunity to step into new relationships or to expand relationships, that you're not just bowing down to the person and with no regard to your own personal boundaries and doing anything you can to please them and to impress them and to appease them. So we don't want fawning here. Also, fawning is, you can smell it out from a mile away and people don't enjoy being around someone who's fawning. So fawning is when you're like, I can tell this person is desperate to do anything I say in order to get something or in order to keep me happy. And that doesn't feel good for most people. If you're a high integrity leader, that doesn't feel good to be the person fawning or to be the person fawned over. So how can you be building relationships with intention? So let's talk about why it matters first. So people move through their careers via relationships. I've watched this happen over and over again, and especially in the last few years, where people's opportunities for career growth comes from who do you know? What are your connections? Who can help you? Who can support you? Who needs you right now? Who can call in a favor for you? So people really move through their careers with their relationships at their side and as an integral piece of their growth. So you need to be very aware of that. People are likely to mentor and sponsor and be in allyship with you in your growth if you have a great relationship with them, more so than if you are a perfect performer. So when you build solid relationships, a few things happen. And this is really, really important because this grows with you and stays with you over the course of your career. So when you build solid relationships, people remember you. So you can be coworkers today, and 10 years from now, if you built a good relationship, you might not have spoken in 10 years, but people will remember you. I'll give examples in a minute. So the first thing, when you build those solid relationships, people will remember you. The second thing, they will refer to you. So they'll be like, oh yeah, so-and-so, yes, Sarah, I know Sarah from way back when, or I know Sarah from this, or Sarah's great at this thing. So they refer to you. And then they even say maybe like, hey, I want go go use Sarah for this thing. So they'll refer to you and where it's like helpful in your career growth. And they will return to you. They'll keep coming back. So when you build those solid relationships, people remember you, they refer to you, and they return to you. So what does this look like? How are you building these relationships so that this can work? So let me tell you what this has looked like in my career. I've had this really interesting thing happen over the course of building multiple businesses in multiple industries. So I started out in my career working in a psychiatric hospital. I'm still connected to a number of the people that I worked with there, even though that career ended in 2003. Not 2000, 2003, 2004-ish. I then started my fitness career. That career went from 2003 to 2018. I'm still in touch with people from that career. And then I went into my Shameless Mom Academy work, working with moms, which has now evolved into the work that I do now with organizations and leaders over the last 10 years. So over the course of multiple careers, multiple businesses, what's so wild to me is the people that will reach out to me who I have not heard from in 10, 20 years from 3 careers ago, who were like, hey, I heard you're doing this thing. I want to talk. Because I am a good relationship builder, people come back to me. They remember me, they return to me, they refer to me. Year after year, decade after decade, career after career, industry after industry. So how do you do this? This looks like building trust and authenticity in your relationships at every level and across functions. What's so interesting to me is that people who have referred work to me were not necessarily my peers in the work that we did years ago. Sometimes it's like a boss who worked in a totally different department or a leader from a totally different department who only had an inkling of my work, but maybe we worked together, and I'm thinking of my hospital work specifically, maybe we worked together on a special project or in a certain capacity for a short amount of time, and they remember me. So making sure that as you're building relationships across levels in an organization, across functions, across relationships, that you are building trust and that you are being who you are, you're being authentic so that people remember you, so that you stand out. This also looks like offering support and asking for support. So building relationships means asking and offering and receiving. It's asking for support and offering support and asking for support. Next is investing in relationships that are reciprocal. So it's not just you giving, it's not just one person. Investing in relationships that are reciprocal and taking the extra time to really get to know people. I will say that especially as I built my career as a personal trainer and in my business, I made such a point of getting to know people, remembering people's names, obviously remembering their names, but remembering their children's names, their partners' names, remembering where they were going to go for a weekend away and then asking them about it when they got back, remembering what their partners did for work and asking about that, remembering little details and coming back to those details repeatedly over time. That allowed me to build relationships where people felt seen, heard, held, and valued. And they know that that's how I build relationships. That's still how I build relationships, partly because I'm just a nosy person. So it's really easy for me to do that. But knowing that people can always come back to me and that we're going to pick up right where we left off, that I'm going to remember random details about their life, that I'm going to ask them that thing about their dog or that thing about their family trip last summer. So investing in relationships where people feel like they really truly know you, not just that they know this one sector of your life, but they really know you and who you are. So this isn't about networking and building a network in order to build your net worth kind of a thing that's cliche and super cringy. It's really about leveraging your leadership to build relationships and points of connection that bring you joy and that are absolutely fulfilling to you and that also strategically benefit you. Those things can all be true at one time. And just because you built a relationship that strategically serves you does not mean that it can't also have a lot of meaning in your life. So make sure that you're thinking both pieces of that through, that you're not someone who's only building relationships for the sake of strategy because people can sniff that out and they don't want to be in those relationships, and that you're not just building relationships for the sake of getting your cup filled and making new friends, which that can be meaningful. But if you're really wanting to accelerate your career, you're doing both, that you're building those meaningful relationships and you're going to strategically leverage them when you have the opportunity to do so. Knowing that because you've built this great relationship, this isn't going to be like, oh, I hope this person will do me a favor, but instead it's, we're in this great relationship with this person and they're going to want to do this thing for me because this is what I would do for them. And that feels good in the relationship. That's the kind of relationship we've built, and that we're both excited to do those kinds of things for each other. That's how you can tell that there's that trust and authenticity built into the relationship. The fourth skill, the fourth thing that you're going to do is navigate power, politics, and bias without losing yourself. So you're going to really keep track of how you navigate systems that were maybe not built for you to be successful. So if you are a woman, if you are a person of color, if you have a disability, if you are LGBTQ+, you might be navigating systems that were not built for you to be successful, and maybe even were not built for you to feel safe in. So how can you navigate those systems and navigate the power, the politics, and the bias without losing yourself? So this does not at all mean that you compromise your safety, but instead it means that you are identifying where are there power dynamics in place that are maybe keeping me stuck, and I need to put myself in a position to be able to self-advocate better. Maybe this looks like understanding the system in a way that allows me to move through the system safely, effectively, and being seen by certain people that can keep me safe and can keep me visible in the places where I want to be visible and I want to have influence. So this looks like reading the room. This looks like understanding who has influence and who is your ally. This looks like understanding all the layers of power at play, and then knowing where's the formal power and where's the informal power, and where do you fit in there, and how are you building your own formal and informal power within those systems. This looks like choosing when you can push and when you need to pause. So knowing, hey, this is where I need to intentionally, challenge something, push a boundary. And this is where the payoff probably isn't worth it, or it's not safe, or this isn't like the hill I want to die on right now, and I'm not going to do it. And then this also looks like strategically naming bias, strategically noting the systems that are working for certain people against certain people, and doing that in a way that is not necessarily setting up a fight, but that is illuminating how the system works and how the system could work better for more people and what the benefits of that system working better for more people would be. When those in power understand the cost of the current system holding certain people back, they're going to be more likely to open doors that create new systems for more people to be successful. So being able to strategically illuminate how these current systems or a current structure is holding certain people back, and what are the costs of that, and then what are the potential benefits of removing any barriers, can oftentimes start to change, upend, and shift systems. So this is skill building and strategic execution, not selling out, not ignoring bias when it's around you. This is very values driven. So you're normalizing being values driven and also being savvy, like being values driven in a way that is going to benefit you and is going to give you a little bit of power, especially if there's a system where maybe you don't otherwise have power. And then the fifth skill you're going to be practicing as you are looking to leverage your leadership to accelerate your career as a woman is putting boundaries in place that protect your energy and your credibility. So we talked earlier about where you putting boundaries in place so that you can step out of people pleasing, and that you're communicating in a way and building influence in a way that is not just about giving more and performing for others, but it's really about performing in a way that allows you to have the influence you want to have in order to get what you want at the end of the day. So where are you putting those boundaries in place to protect your energy and your credibility so that you can prevent the burnout, so that you can prevent being taken for granted, so that you can build your leadership path in a way that is sustainable and also respected. Also so that you can build your leadership path and your leadership legacy in a way that at the end of the day, the women who are coming behind you, who are watching, you would feel proud if they followed the same path, because I promise you there are women coming behind you who are watching. I was actually at some sales events in the fall with sales teams with fairly young groups of women on these sales teams. And in a couple of the trainings that I led, we had breakout groups. So it was sales teams mostly males, and we did breakout groups in some of the events that were just for the women sales people at the events. And what was so interesting to me is how the youngest sales associates in these groups just were eating up the knowledge and the wisdom being shared by the women who had been in the room a little bit longer, because they recognize, like, hey, I'm in this arena where there's not very many of us. Like, how do we do it? What are the secrets? Like, what are the inside tips? And it was really cool to see the women who had been there for a while were like, let me fill you in. And it was really, really fun, really exciting. But the younger women coming in were definitely like, tell me everything. Like, don't sugarcoat it. What's the dirt here? And so there are people who are watching. So however you're doing it is setting an example for other people to do it in a similar way. So how are you doing this? How are you strategically building this leadership path for yourself in a way that when someone else builds a similar path for themselves, you're like, yeah, that's what I taught him how to do. That's what I modeled. That you are recognizing that that's the influence that you have, that people will follow in your footsteps. And what are those footsteps that you want them following in? So then what does this look like in terms of setting boundaries? This looks like not over-explaining yourself, saying no to things without over-explaining. This looks like letting go of always being the one to save everything or catch everything, or being like the reliable one or the dependable one, being the martyr in situations, especially if you're the only woman at the table. This looks like protecting time for high-impact work. This is so important. Having actual white space on your calendar where you're like, this is just my time to think, and recognizing the importance of that. It doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes in the morning or if it's 3 hours on Thursday afternoon, but having time for high impact work where you're really thoughtfully and strategically thinking about your own leadership growth and your own leadership development, and then putting that into action. So with that, thinking through these steps, thinking through how you are strategically taking steps to advance your career, we're looking again at that strategic self-advocacy, clear, confident communication, relationship building with intention, navigating power, politics, and bias without losing yourself, and then building boundaries that protect your energy and your credibility. When you think about this path for yourself, what skill of these 5 might have the biggest impact for you right now? What skill maybe needs to be prioritized right now? It might not be the most comfortable one, by the way. It might not be the safe and easy one. So is there one that might be the most uncomfortable one where you're like, oh, that's the one I probably really need to do? If you're feeling called out on one of them, you're like, I feel really uncomfortable with that one. That's maybe a sign it's the one that you really need to focus on. So where's the one area that you really need to focus? And then thinking through, what are the costs of not focusing in that area right now? And then what are the potential benefits or payoffs if you were to focus on that area for this quarter or this year, and think about how it can impact your career growth during that time. As we wrap up here, I want you to be thinking about, how are you really intentionally and strategically developing leadership skills that accelerate your career, not just for the sake of influence or for the sake of, getting to be more visible, but really for the sake of impact and for the sake of being really proud of what you built and doing it in a way that feels sustainable and that feels like you can do it over the long haul to build something that you feel great about. Again, that you would feel proud of anyone walking in your footsteps, following in your footsteps. So thank you for being here. Share this out with other women leaders who are advancing their leadership skills and looking to accelerate their careers. And thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to be back with you next week. Until then, know that I am in this with you always. Thank you for allowing me to spend time in your ear today. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe to this channel. To learn more about my speaking, training, and coaching services, visit saradean.com. That's SARADEAN. I would also love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn at saradean.com/LinkedIn, or on Instagram at saradeanspeaks. I love hearing from my listeners. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. I see you, I hear you, and I'm holding space for you today and every single day.